We see the fallout relationally. We see it emotionally in our children. We see a mental health crisis in our nation and around the world that's starting to reach epic proportions.
We give them an iPad or an iPhone. We let them spend 5, 7, 9 hours a day online interacting with strangers. You couldn't pick a worse time to give kids smartphones than age 10 or 11.
We spend so much time pointing the fingers at our spouses and our kids for their phone use without looking at ourselves in the mirror first.
The thief today is stealing our time and killing our relationships and destroying our peace.
It's one of the greatest opportunities we have as parents is to just put our devices down.
It turns out when you start to detach from your phone, you discover all kinds of things about yourself, about other people, even about hearing the voice of God.
So religious communities have the ability to really set norms and put some subtle pressure on the whole group. And that's magical because all of this is based on a set of collective action problems where each of us acting alone, we find it really hard to deny these things that everyone else has. But if we act together, it becomes much, much easier.
This is the ideal space for the church to lead a problem in society and showing them that if we all do this together, teenagers, parents, grandparents, the teenage friend group, it's the digital fast. We want to guide other churches in not just like any spiritual fast. It is not just putting something down, it's picking something else up. It is not just reducing distraction, it is increasing devotion.
We're going to actually take 28 days, and we're going to commit as a community to go on this journey together.
Welcome to Digital Christianity, a podcast miniseries brought to you by Reformed Youth Ministries. This is episode 13, Breaking Up with Our Devices. Last week, Dr. Reed Schuchard talked about Christians learning from the Amish community because they've spent approximately 300 years thinking deeply about technology. In a similar fashion, some of those in the outside world are looking to the church to take the lead against digital addiction. The audio that opened this episode was taken from the trailer for the Digital Fast, which we'll discuss more in a minute. One of the sound bites was Jonathan Haidt talking about the importance of the church pushing back on the dominance of our digital lives. Keep in mind that Haidt is an atheist, but is giving testimony to the unique ways in which the church is positioned to help the broader culture in this regard. We'll get into that more in just a minute. For now, here's Joey Odom. He's one of the leaders involved in the Digital Fast, but he's also the co-founder of something called ARO, spelled A-R-O. Before he tells you what that is, listen to this story that helped give birth to the creation of ARO.
You know, we think about our phones, John, our phones have staked a claim on our moments. They've staked a claim in what I believe in 5 key areas of our lives. And we talk about this when we go talk to people about technology. And one of the areas that our phones have staked a claim, they've staked a claim on our moments. And we all know what moments are, right? Moments are these moments. They're these times that are frozen in our mind, flashes in our mind that become frozen in our existence, right? That these moments, it's the time my 6-year-old, when my daughter was 6, and we were walking after a Braves game, and she reached up to hold my hand, and we walked through the rain together. Like, that's a moment that's so cemented in my mind, right? So we have these moments all through our lives, and we may not realize at the time how good the moment was. Dr. Seuss has a great line. He says, sometimes we'll never know the value of a moment until it becomes a memory. So I have one of those moments, right? I have one of those moments when my son Harrison was 5. This is the fall of 2013. Harrison is almost 17 now, but he's 5 years old at the time, and he's playing his very first soccer season. So, and just a little bit of context, Harrison at the time and still is such a sweet boy. He's a great boy. He's kind. He's considerate towards others, which are really great characteristics in life. And they're really terrible characteristics on a 5-year-old soccer field, right? So, the kids who really score the goals are the aggressive kids, right? Kids who appear to be in maybe some kind of work release program, right? So these are aggressive children who are scoring goals. Harrison was not scoring a lot of goals. Everybody on the team this year had scored a goal except for Harrison. But we got our lawn chairs and sat on the sidelines to endure yet another soccer game. But then it happened. Right in the middle of the ordinary, something extraordinary emerged as Harrison stood in front of the ball, reared back his leg, and I'll say it, it's almost like, John, like this moment, if you can picture it with me, it's like a slow motion movie. as this sweet little boy who hadn't scored a goal all year rears back his leg and kicks, and the ball glides over the grass, and it goes in the back of the net for his first soccer goal. And what happened right after this, and it's maybe a little dramatic to say, has changed me as a father. So Harrison, the crowd goes wild. The coach runs out and picks Harrison up over his head. But there's a little split second between the ball hitting the back of the net and Harrison's coach picking him up when Harrison did something that 5-year-old boys do, and that is he turned to the sidelines to lock eyes with me, to see the pride on my face, see the smile on my face, to share that moment with me. And it was magical. It's truly a moment for all time, except for one minor detail, and that was that I missed the entire moment. See, when Harrison turned to the sidelines, all he saw was the top of my head because I was looking down at my phone. So I didn't see the goal. I didn't see his coach pick him up. I didn't see his beautiful face scan the sidelines for mine. I didn't see the light in his face turn to disappointment when he realized that I missed this big moment. So the natural question is, what were you doing on your phone? It had to be so important for you to miss a moment like that. But the truth is, I have no idea what I was doing on my phone. It could have been the most important work email of my life. Could have been a group text. It could have been a funny video, but it didn't matter because my phone had staked a claim in that moment. That's a formative moment that I have found is not unique to me, that other people have those moments. And what's interesting about the way our phones have staked a claim in our moments is this is so insidious, is that this happens without us noticing, right? If you ask me, hey, Joey, how many times have you missed a moment with your kids? How many times, by number, have you missed a moment with your kids and you haven't noticed? I have no idea. That's an impossible thing to know because I missed it, right? So this has happened all along the way. And as our phones have staked a claim in this area of our lives, we've begun to sacrifice the moments that make life worth living. And there's something wrong with that. So if you talk about for any parent, and this is what really motivates people, parents especially, it's partially for your own well-being. But when you start seeing affecting your kids, when you start seeing it affecting your spouse, when you see it start affecting your relationships, that's when you realize, oh, wait, something's wrong here.
Every one of us has experienced something similar to Joey's story. We've all missed moments with our children because the allure of the device was too strong. So what exactly is RO?
RO is a tech platform that gamifies the experience of being away from your phone. RO gives you reminders to spend some time away with your phone. It allows you to tap something on the app, flip your phone over to initiate a session of quantifying, of measuring the intentional time that you're away from your phone. And then what you do with that, once you're done with your session, you do a quick tap of the app. You can tag what you've done, almost like a fitness app. So I can tell, I have a goal this year, John. I have a goal to have 200 RO hours with my daughter this year, 200 RO hours with my son, 400 RO hours with my wife. And there's a difference between sitting there together and we're kind of on our phone here and there versus fully intentional phone-free focused time on the people around me that I love so much. And I measure that within the app. I know exactly how much time I've spent reading the Bible this year. So it makes it really fun to be able to quantify and measure things that are important to you. So that's what we do. And then if people would like, as an add-on, we have something called the RO box that holds and charges your phone that automatically connects to the app. So where you can put that so you can be fully engaged in the relationships around you. I'll specifically, as a specific call out to church leaders, and this is who we're primarily focused on, consumers can absolutely join RO and be part of that. But to church leaders, I can't think. There are discipleship tools certainly that are wonderful. This is a top 3 investment you need to make in your people. Is if you lead a church, if you lead a faith-based organization, you need to invest in your people with this because, one, it provides utility for them and their families, but also it says to them that you care about their mental well-being, that you care about their emotional, their spiritual well-being. Because, and I could rabbit trail on this one for a while, the word doesn't take root, and Jesus talks about this in the parable of the sower. The word doesn't take root because it gets snatched up by riches of this world and concerns of this world. All of the concerns of this world are embedded within our phone. So how do you expect your people to be good soil if they haven't gotten this piece right? So that's a little bit of a tangent to say, if you're a church leader, I am more convinced I'm more convinced than ever that you need to help lead your people well when it comes to this. and we'd love to be part of that. And so that's what we do. So that's how we do that, is gamifying the experience of being away from your phone, making it something that everybody can do together. We have leaderboards, family circles, all that kind of stuff, all towards the goal of let's help you disconnect with your phone, because 91% of us have our phones with us 24 hours a day, John. So here's what happens. Our constant proximity to our phone leads us to constant interaction with our phones. So on the proximity, 91% of us have our phones with us 24 hours a day, which leads us to constantly interact with them. 89% of our smartphone usage is self-initiated. So our proximity leads to interaction, which leads to utter dependence on our phones. And when we are dependent on our phones, we believe we need to have them with us all the time, which leads us back to proximity. We call this the PID loop: proximity, interaction, dependence. But if you break proximity, you break the PID loop and you begin to reclaim what's yours.
I'd encourage you to check out more information about RO. And if you're listening to this on your smartphone, explore the app a bit to see if it might be something that's helpful for you. One thing Joey said that I want to zoom in on is what he referred to as the PID loop: proximity, interaction, dependence. As he said, 91% of us have our phones with us 24 hours a day. If we're in close proximity, it increases our interaction, which feeds our dependence. While RO seeks to help break the proximity with our devices and even gamifies our experience, breaking proximity is something you can do today. Do you think you fit into that 91% of users Joey spoke of? What about your children or students? Are they in that 91%? A first step may be thinking of ways in which you can start to decrease the amount of time they're in close proximity to their device. This episode of the RYM podcast is brought to you by Crossway, publisher of Scrolling Ourselves to Death: Reclaiming Life in a Digital Age. For Christians, the digital revolution has profound implications for spiritual formation and mission. How should believers respond to the theological and discipleship challenges of scrolling life? On the 40th anniversary of Neil Postman's prophetic book, Amusing Ourselves to Death, Scrolling Ourselves to Death gathers today's most incisive writers to think critically about the shaping power of contemporary technology. This book explores Postman's insights, connects them to the challenges facing Christians today, and turns difficult challenges into life-giving opportunities for the church. Stepping back from their screens, readers will be equipped to live faithfully and grow spiritually in a scrolling ourselves to death world. Pick up a copy of Scrolling Ourselves to Death wherever books are sold, or visit crossway.org/plus. That's crossway.org/plus to find out how you can get 30% off with a free Crossway Plus account. Before I get back to Joey Odom talking about the digital fast for churches, I wanted you to hear from Dr. AJ Swoboda. AJ is a professor at Bushnell University in Eugene, Oregon. He's around college students all the time, and he did college ministry at one point in his life. Next week, you'll hear more from him about rest, but I asked him what's a major difference between students now compared to years ago.
There's some pretty obvious ways, at least in my own history, 10 years of college ministry on the campus of the University of Oregon, then 10 years as a church pastor in Portland. My wife and I planted a church, and then now 6 years as an academic. There are some obvious ways, no doubt, that I see. Yeah, and you mentioned social media, but I think broadly in general, just the digital landscape is affecting our kids or our students, this generation, which this generation now, they're digital natives versus my generation. So my generation entered into this whole world. We got our first phones when I was 20 years old, 19 when I got my first cell phone, and didn't get into social media until I was like 25, 26. But this generation, like from breastfeeding, I mean, they were given phones. Their parents were giving them phones when they were eating at dinner and when they were, at home all the time. So there's some huge obvious differences. One of them is that One of the distinct differences I noticed is that when I was a high schooler, a middle schooler, you would have this experience of going to class the first day and you wouldn't know anybody. And you had to do like this crazy thing. You had to talk to people. And some of us ended up marrying the people that we talked to. I mean, it was like, those were really important moments, being forced into conversation. You would, John, be shocked to see most college students, day one, it is the quietest room you have ever been in. They come in and immediately turn to their phones, which in many respects has become the fig leaf of our culture to cover our shame of feeling alone. So we use our phones as a way of hiding from ourselves, that we don't know anybody in the room. And I constantly recognize that my students are faking it. They're not actually texting. They're just fake texting to make it look like, they got busier things to do than just to talk. So that's one huge difference, is the use of their phones and the digital world as a way of sidestepping their own humanity and frailty and loneliness.
I hadn't really thought about the silence of the classroom on the first day of school. How much that shifted from the days I was in the classroom. While alarming might be too strong a word to use as a label for this new reality, the accumulation of subtle changes like this and others adding up to something that's shifting the culture in ways that's hard to measure. And it's initiatives like the digital fast that are attempting to push back on these cultural shifts. Once again, here's Joey Odom.
John, you're going to learn something in my story that I do a great job of not having original ideas. That I just get with smart people who have original ideas. Heath Wilson had the idea for RO. Another brilliant Tennessean, Dr. Darren Whitehead at Church of the City, pastor at Church of the City in Nashville, which is an unbelievable church. If you're not plugged in a church in Nashville, go see Church of the City. So Darren, this is on his heart and had been on his heart for years. And he initiated within his church something that he called the digital fast. And no one, interestingly, at the time of the origin, no one was really using that terminology around a phone. And just as a quick preface, so people can have some context around it, when we say the digital fast, this is not abstinence from your phone. The premise around the digital fast is you're actually fasting from the distraction of your phone. So if you think about, you take an assessment, the very first phase of the digital fast is you take an assessment of everything that lives on your phone and you say, what's distraction and what's utility? We all probably very quickly know some of the distracting elements of our phone. People who are on TikTok, there's one. Instagram, probably. YouTube, probably, right? 70% of our phone usage is entertainment. So you look at the distracting elements and you remove those things, leaving you with just utility. Darren likes to say, you don't doom scroll the Southwest Airlines app, right? That's a utility. That's utility on your phone. So he took his church through this, and it began as a 40-day journey for their church through 4 phases of technology reimagination. Begins with detach. That's when you do that assessment, leads to discover, then to delight, and then to determine. Determine is, what's the rest of my life look like after this digital fast. Darren's experience at Church of the City, and this is a church of 10,000 plus, was unbelievable. He said in all of his years of ministry, this is the most effective discipleship tool he's ever seen. Just to hear the stories and here's what's so cool, John, is to hear the pride that people took in themselves, particularly in the high school age, in middle schoolers, in the college age, the young, talking about it off air, that group of people who have probably felt the pain of their phone getting in the way of their relationships most poignantly. I can tell you they don't like that feeling. And so they are thirsty for connection. And this is all built around the idea of collective action. Jonathan Haidt talks about this in The Anxious Generation. A collective action problem is a problem that you basically can't address on your own. Because if you do it on your own, if you're the only kid off Instagram, then you're just excluded. Everybody else is still on Instagram. But if everybody in your friend circle is off Instagram at the same time, it makes it so much easier to do it. So the church is the perfect context for this. So they did this for years at Church of the City, several years, and it was unbelievable. And we went to Darren. We got connected to Darren through another one of our partners in the digital fast named Gabe Lyons at Think Media. Gabe said, gosh, guys, Darren, RO, you all have to connect here. You got to figure out how to do this. And we said to Darren, let us help you scale this to the church throughout the country. And on top of that, let us help churches measure how much time collectively we're off our phones. So here's what's cool is we've launched this. We have a cohort of churches in January right now going through it. We're hearing stories out of these churches that are so much fun, not just qualitative. So Vox Church in Connecticut is a church going through it right now. And one thing, Nancy Silva, who's their director of spiritual life, she told us that she said the Jesus work that's happening through this has blown her away. She said she's heard so many stories, and I love how she said this. She said she's heard so many stories going after the first week of the digital fast of people saying how hard and how wonderful this experience has been. How great is that? Like the combination of to put those two in the same sentence and positive. This is so hard. God, this is so wonderful. So there's one. Then we have Ethos Church in Columbus, Ohio. Jordan Smucker, another great church, amazing communicator. Jordan Smucker at Ethos Church in Columbus, Ohio. Last week, their congregation spent 250 days off their phones, the equivalent of 250 days off their phones, and that's in 6 days. So they have said, okay, we're going to prioritize this. So what we're seeing, so the way I'm getting into stories because those excite me, but practically how the digital fast works, there are two components to it. There is the digital fast workbook, which is a 28-day guide that every participant in the digital fast gets. So they'll walk through a day of scripture reading, time of reflection, some exercises after that to reimagine how we're using technology. I mentioned it takes you through those 4 phases, and now it's 28 days. It was originally 40. It went down to 28 to make it approachable for people to say, like, okay, I can do this for 28 days. So that's the individual side, is that everybody's going through that. Think Media also has provided great resources for group discussion questions as well. So every week, if you're in a small group, they have a video from somebody like Andy Crouch or Felicia Wusong or people who are real brilliant thought leaders in this to spark discussion. So you have the individual journey, you have the small group journey, and then you have the collective element. And this is where RO comes in, is that everybody who participates in the digital fast through their church gets 60 days of RO access. And in doing that, when everybody does that together, a church like Jordan Smucker at Ethos Columbus can stand up and say, hey, church, we just spent 250 days off our phones last week. And so what that does, it begins to really embed it within a community and encourage people that I'm doing this with other people around me. So there will probably, John, I believe, as we're looking at this is something that's available all throughout the year. We'll have January cohort of churches, February, we'll have a cohort of churches going through it in Lent. We're going to have several hundred churches go through it together in Kansas City. A quick shout out to Kansas City. This is what's amazing to me. Randy Frazee is a pastor at Westside Family Church in Kansas City. He's a ball of vision and energy, and he's wonderful. And they're part of a network called the What If the Church. And they've said, hey, what if the Kansas City area churches all came together? And they'll swap pulpits and they'll do all this. I mean, it's really cool what they're doing there, uniting a group of churches. So this is collective action, kind of on spiritual steroids here, right? That they're doing this not just as a single church, but as a network of churches. So there'll be hundreds of them going through that in back to school. So there will be we're projecting out over 100,000 people will go through the digital fast this year. Crossroads Church in Cincinnati, Brian Tome's church, was an incredible church. They'll have their people, tens of thousands of people going through it in a very unique way as well. So, I think I answered your question somewhere, right? I had to.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. At a basic level, fasting is removing something we're dependent on. Fasting is often associated with food, but fasting from our devices has become something that's increased in popularity over the past several years. While Joey says that some of the older congregants in churches may not see a need for participation in a church-wide digital fast, he believes it's young people who will lead the way in this.
I will say, just candidly, with congregations who may have congregants a little bit more in the age range of my parents, that's where that age range may not quite get it. They may say, like, no, I don't need this for myself. I wish my grandkids had it, but I don't need it. which I disagree with, but your grandkids also need it, but so do you. This is why, again, especially for what you all are doing, this is why I love RYM so much, is that I believe the hope is with this generation of kids that you're speaking with, that they're going to be the ones that turn the tide. It's the high schoolers, it's the college kids, the middle schoolers. They're the ones who are actually going to lead us in all of this. Their adoption of it is going to encourage their parents to do it, which is just so encouraging because they don't like how it's felt up to this point. But I do believe they have the guts to do something about it. And I think that they can be in such a desperate place where they know they have to do something about it.
In the next episode, you'll hear more from AJ Swoboda, and you'll also hear from Bill Smith as they talk about Sabbath rest and how it can help us in the area of technology. You've been listening to Digital Christianity by Reformed Youth Ministries. For more information about our summer conferences, youth leader training, and resources, visit rym.org. If you would take the time to leave a positive review and share this podcast with others, it's one small way to help our ministry. Stay tuned to the RYM podcast for more great content that seeks to serve the church in her efforts to reach and equip youth for Christ.